Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we've been in for several decades now, and that affects every aspect of our lives, from the senseless violence in the streets to the disastrous relationships in our homes. Everything we experience these days that causes us heartache is in some way related to the character crisis. I've spent my professional career studying and writing about matters of character. Why? Because I have come to appreciate its paramount importance. Character is like our psychological immune system, as I've written before. It's what gets us through the inevitable hardships and trials of life without making matters worse or adding to problems. It's what keeps us whole and sane in the midst of chaos. But we have forgotten not only its paramount importance, but we've also forgotten the basics of how to instill it. And slowly and incrementally, aspects of our environment deteriorated because too many character-impaired people were entering the population. Conversely, an increasingly narcissistic, entitled, relativistic, and misguided culture helped spawn an increase in character disturbance among those living in the culture and growing in the culture. So we have a classic vicious cycle, and it's how we got to where we are. And we will turn things around the exact same way that we got to this place, slowly, incrementally, one heart at a time, beginning with our own. And that's why I've dedicated my life and my writings to this effort, especially my latest book, Essentials for the Journey, Embracing and Living the 10 Commandments of Character, proven principles, time-tested, timeless values, proven to help develop folks in a spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically healthy way so that they can lead a fulfilling life and build a better society. And today I want to focus on the very first commandment of character, which has to do with our worldview and our view of ourselves. You see, human beings take longer to develop in character than any other creatures on the planet, and by a lot. The socialization process for human beings is an enterprise that takes hour by hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, for many, many years, to help a person forge the kind of character that will not only enable them to enjoy wholesome relationships, but will enable them to make positive contributions to the world instead of being part of the world's problems. So character development is serious business. And it all starts with what I call the first commandment, which is overcoming our inherent egocentrism. Egocentricity is just part and parcel of who we are from the beginning. We tend to see, as infants even, the entire world as an extension of ourselves. We can't even differentiate ourselves from the rest of the world. And we tend to want to incorporate and possess and purely enjoy everything that we see in the world that looks attractive in some way into ourselves. We think the world exists for us. This is natural. It's normal. It's how we start out. Sadly, some folks never advance beyond this stage. The world is truly their oyster. They believe everything and everyone exists for their benefit. They haven't outgrown their inherent narcissism. We hear a lot of talk about narcissism these days and what's behind it and what its characteristics are. There's some good information out there, but there's an awful lot of misinformation and inadequate information and incomplete information. One of my prior podcasts talks about the fact that when it comes to narcissism, one size does not fit all. And nothing could be more true. There are various types of narcissism and various degrees of those types of narcissism. But suffice it to say that as far as the basics are concerned, for the narcissist, the world exists for them to use and exploit and savor as they wish, and with a sense of entitlement many times. And this always causes problems in relationships because the narcissist does not see the bigger picture. Now, it's not that they can't see the bigger picture. It's that they won't see it. Why? For some, they feel they don't need to. It's not incumbent upon them to feel obliged to do anything they don't want to do or see anything they don't want to see. So it's not that they're in denial, so to speak, but that they've deliberately put the blinders on to anything that doesn't suit their fancy. They just don't care enough to want to consider enough anything outside their immediate wants and needs. It's all about them, period. So why pay attention to anything else? It's not biologically based inattention. It's selective inattention. I don't care about anything or anyone else but me, says the narcissist to themselves. And some, the more vulnerable types, the more compensatory types, have such a fragile and underdeveloped sense of self that they find it painful to grow beyond this limited worldview. But others, the entitled, spoiled rotten, always given, and always feeling deserved types, don't strive to feel special, but already do feel special and entitled to do as they please, to use as they please, to exploit as they please, because after all, it's all about them. And a variation of these types that I call the aggressive personalities not only don't recognize anything bigger or anything power. In my writings, I call this recognizing a higher power of some kind. We're not talking about necessarily a spiritual or a God figure. We're just talking about anything bigger, anything more important than oneself. There is a variant of this kind of narcissism that I call the aggressive personalities, who not only don't recognize anything bigger, anything higher, but abhor the notion, simply abhor, and notice I did not say fear, they simply detest the notion of turning themselves over, being the servant to anything bigger, including the principles of life, the values and principles that would make of them a much better person. And it's not like they don't see. I say this in my workshops all the time. It's not that they don't see, but rather that they disagree. And it's not that they're not aware, it's that they don't care. They've probably been told and apprised by others hundreds of, if not thousands of times in their life that their worldview is limited, maybe even harmful, but they don't care. Plus, they so abhor the notion of serving anything bigger or making themselves subordinate to anything other than their own whims and fancies. They're so abhorrent of serving a higher power that they don't take in to their heart. They refuse to take into their heart the values and the principles that others have repeatedly invited them to consider. All these things are matters of the heart, and many great sages throughout the ages have tried to tell us this, but we don't listen. They try to tell us that the things that harm us have their origins in the human heart. Many times, when we're not right with others, it's because we're not right with ourselves. We're wrong-minded and wrong acting because we're wrong-hearted so much of the time. And that's how we will change things, one heart at a time. In my work over the years, the easiest work has been with those individuals who have been in relationships with character-impaired people. Working with them to help them understand the nature of the hardship and the emotional discomfort and pain that they've been struggling with for so many years, helping them understand it, the reasons for it, and helping them solidify the skills that they need to deal more effectively with the character-impaired individuals in the world. There are so many of them. And empower themselves and carve out a better life for themselves. This is easy, rewarding, incredibly fulfilling work. There's nothing better than supporting someone in their growth toward personal fulfillment and happiness and release from the bondage of an abusive or exploitative relationship. This is easy. What's really a challenge as a therapist, and this is why so many people don't get help when they go for help, what's really difficult as a therapist or as a counselor of any type is to benignly, lovingly, but firmly confront all of the aspects of character and all the behaviors associated with it and all the twisted ways of thinking and harmful attitudes that come with it, that keep a person from becoming a decent person. Confronting those things openly, honestly, and in the here and now in a way that is hard to deny is the hardest work a therapist will ever do. And developing the skills to do that has taken me a lifetime, which is why I've spent so much time attempting to carry the message to other professionals in professional training. This first commandment that I mentioned earlier is pivotal, getting outside our limited worldview, helping a person not just to see the bigger picture, but to really come to accept in the heart their place within the bigger picture. Their proper place, not an inferior place, but not a superior place either, but a place nonetheless. And to develop the heart to care about the impact that their very presence, and most especially their behavior, has on everyone and everything else. Developing the heart for this is the key not only to every single individual's personal character growth, but it's the key to our overall safety, security, well-being, and future. Because if we don't get seriously honest with ourselves, about ourselves, and with each other, about each other, we are in for some very, very difficult, painful times. History teaches us that. We don't seem to learn from it. But I'll keep sounding the drumbeat, and I'll keep writing. I invite you to visit my blog at drgeorgesimon.com and avail yourself of the hundreds of free articles on the various topics, and to avail yourself of all my books, available sometimes in multiple formats, readily available on Amazon and all the other major sellers. Not so much in bookstores anymore because of the longevity of these things, but always available online. And most especially my most treasured work, Essentials for the Journey. Embracing and living the 10 Commandments of Character. Proven principles for an emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually healthy and rich life. I'm more serious than ever about this work and its meaning and my intended impact on it. When I first wrote In Sheep's Clothing, I did so because I had come upon a syndrome currently referred to commonly as the gaslighting syndrome. And because it resonated with folks, the manuscript took off like wildfire through several editions in many, many foreign languages, still in print after 26 years and still a bestseller after 26 years. There's a reason for that. The reason is that resonance. And what I pray is that in my latest offering, Essentials for the Journey, there will be a similar resonance. The time is now. We can turn things around. We can help end the endless divisions between us, the heartaches that divide us and ruin our relationships, that make it impossible for it to be safe with our hearts in this character-impaired world. We can do this, but it takes recognizing and embracing and taking to heart principles that have proven through the ages to make us all that we can be as human beings, to overcome our infantile predispositions and become fully and more healthily human. Our lives and our welfare depend upon it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. George Simon. See you next time, and take care.